I'm Dr. John Thompson, and I want to thank everyone for inviting me here and for coming. I'm going to be speaking about Buddhism. And when I was preparing for this, I was a little confused. Part of the problem is I have so much material. Having written a textbook, I kind of have a lot of material I was drawing upon for this. But anyway, one of the things that was occurring to me when I was on my way over here is the inherent ambiguity surrounding this phrase social justice, and I think Dr. Rosenberg addressed that quite well. It can really seem to mean different things, and we have a tendency, I think, to sort of assume that what we mean is the meaning that's shared by everyone. That's not always the case. Generally speaking, I would say, when it comes to Buddhist tradition, there's a great deal of ambivalence around these sorts of concepts, in part because one of the key things in Buddhist tradition is the focus on intention and the sort of mindful approach one is bringing to a situation. And part of this is to perhaps get us to look at what is motivating your actions or your quests. Is it just pleasure, pain, whatever? Buddhism also has such a long and complex history. It has no central organization or single institution. It cuts across a vast body of different cultures. It tends to have a very pragmatic and situational approach to issues. I was actually talking about this a bit with my Buddhism class today. I usually take a more historical approach to these things. We could certainly look at the historical Buddha, the founder of the religion as we know it, as someone concerned with social justice, however we define it. He certainly was challenging the ancient Indian social hierarchy at the time. And he espoused what is seemingly a universal approach to ethics, and he sought to promote virtues. He founded an alternative social practice. The monastic tradition in Buddhism seems to be a result of the historical Buddha's founding. And he did open up the possibility of women joining that. And this is something that was revolutionary in his day. Skipping ahead, in the 3rd century, the great Indian emperor Ashoka is well known as a sort of model of what an ideal Buddhist layperson could be. He actually, after establishing his empire, had this conversion experience. He's something like a Constantine of the Buddhist world. And he vowed that he would rule his empire on the basis of dharma, which is kind of a generic Indian term. In the Buddhist context, it means the teachings that guide one to truth. And so he actually instituted a number of practices and institutions in his empire, which stretched throughout what's now India, on up into Central Asia, on as far as Afghanistan. And he was promoting the social welfare. Generally speaking, in Buddhist history, there is, I think, a great deal of resonance in terms of social practices with what Dr. Underwood was talking about with the Roman Catholic Church. A sense of working with the state and government rather than against it. There are plenty of other figures I could also mention. Actually, the more recent examples that I can come up with is really a major movement that has begun latter part of the 20th century and is growing. We sometimes call it engaged Buddhism. And this comes from a term coined by a very famous figure, some of you may know him, Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk who really was seeking in his work coming out of the Vietnam War to address major social issues and bring a Buddhist perception to these things. It refers to engaged Buddhism, it refers to this practice of self-consciously entering the political arena with the Buddha Dharma as guidance, challenging the status quo in the name of justice, peace, compassion. Engaged Buddhism is very controversial. It's not just a Western movement. Typically, engaged Buddhists address all sorts of issues: racial, ethnic oppression, women's rights, policies that promote economic and social inequality, and environmental degradation. Proponents of Buddhist or engaged Buddhism, Thich Nhat Hanh. We could also include Joanna Macy, a feminist and ecological activist. The poet Gary Snyder. People sometimes want to include the current 14th Dalai Lama, of course, an international figure. Some of you may have heard of Aung San Suu Kyi, the leader of the Burmese opposition movement, a lay Buddhist, winner along with the Dalai Lama of the Nobel Peace Prize. There are many, many others that I could cite. There are many international engaged Buddhist organizations. Probably the most well-known is the Buddhist Peace Fellowship, which you don't actually have to be a Buddhist to be a member of. And in fact, I've been a member of it for the past 15 years. The BPF especially works with other Buddhist organizations to bring a Buddhist perspective to dealing with situations that cause suffering. Generally very much against war and racial injustice and things of that nature. I've got a lot more I could say, but I'm trying to keep it very general and trying to move on. Interesting stuff, controversial stuff, because many Buddhists have said that this engaged Buddhism stuff is just a westernized Buddhism. As far as I can tell, it's not. Some Buddhist scholars are actually saying that this is what is known as, or it seems to be becoming, the fourth major branch of Buddhism. It is ecumenical and interfaith in its orientation, and it is making a major difference in the world. So, thank you.